Lonely Dr. Whooves, Chapter 8. Memories. Moon Lily. No, Lily, she's not dead. However, I don't think it would be a good idea to press her. What happened, big sister? Now that I think about it, why isn't she here with you? The shield broke so fast and unexpected that I couldn't react fast enough. I want you to understand that, Lily. Okay. When the shield broke, your outpost was raided by Earth ponies, while we here were swiftly attacked by Pegasi. They immediately rained down bolts on us, and many of my soldiers died before I could get an organized defense going. When we had repelled them, I found her near the tent with the food, with 2 crossbow bolts in her flank and a bag of hay and apples laying at her hoofs. I did all I could, and so did my medics, but even the best treatment we can give her here is just this, field treatment. If she doesn't see a proper doctor, she won't make it for long. She's in a separate tent right now, since she asked for it. Failed to provide her with food, and when she went to get some herself, she was almost killed? That is more than a minor mishap on your end, big sister. You of all ponies know best how much we owe her. No matter how long we live, we can never repay that debt. And now that we can finally do something for her, you failed to protect her. I know my mistakes, but it was not as you make it out to be. I did not neglect my duty. She is family, and she insisted to prepare dinner this time. In the confusion of the attack, there was nothing I could have done. I could only hope she was hiding somewhere safe. So what do you intend to do now, big sister? She told us that it is very important that she talked to the pony that has her cutie mark. Sunflower's legs failed her, and she sank to the ground. Her head sank, and she avoided Moonlily's gaze. I will have a transport prepared with an armored escort, should you run into any trouble on the way. If you want to speak to her while I make the preparations, she is in the tent next to this one. So you see, I always keep her close. Moonlily nodded and got up from the cushions, leaving the rest to her sister. A last glance over her shoulder revealed tears rolling down her sister's face. As much as she wanted to turn around and comfort her sister, telling her that none of this was her fault, she could not bring herself to do so. After all, this mess was her sister's fault. The doctor awoke slowly. His head hurt, and he felt weakened. It was just now that he realized a not too unpleasant smell, and that he lay in some kind of bed. When he slowly opened his eyes, he noticed a giant banner of a crescent moon hanging directly above him. As he looked around, he could make out that he was in a tent of sorts. The banner he saw resembled Princess Luna's cutie mark, which he had seen just before the TARDIS had taken him and... Octavia! The doctor brushed away the covers and jumped out of the bed. He remembered what had happened, and he had immediately begun to search pockets of his tuxedo he had put on for the concert, which was now in tatters. When his hooves found a small cylinder, he pulled it out, expecting to find his sonic screwdriver. What he had found, however, knocked all of the relief he had previously felt out of him. He recognized the cylinder as the object he had grabbed before jumping into the vortex. In his haste, he had grabbed the wrong one, and the reality of his mishap crashed down on him in this very instant. The cylinder on his hoof was a TARDIS control device, but since he did not have his sonic, he was unable to configure it for his TARDIS. Stars of Costurbers! Of all the times this could have happened, how could I grab this instead of the callback device? The doctor mumbled to himself. Some pony outside must have heard him, since the flaps of the tent were shoved aside, and the unicorn stallion, a metal barding, his red coat looked like it had been bathed in blood. "Prisoner, you should lay down again. The doctor said that your injuries look worse than they actually are, but you still need to rest." Another stallion entered after the first one, putting a hoof in front of him to signal him to leave the prisoner alone. Snorting at the new arrival, the red-coated stallion left the tent. The second stallion had a green coat and red mane. When the two of them were alone, he faced the doctor. "Please excuse Sharp Edge. He is uncomfortable taking orders from me, and even more so that these orders make him guard a nurse pony." "Oh, it's quite all right. I've been treated worse in the past. But please tell me, where am I? And you didn't happen to have found a small cylindric object? It is very important to me, and I need it back if you know where it is." Goodhart remembered the object he had found when discovering the strange Earth pony. He didn't see this stallion as a threat, but his sister would want to speak to him alone. If this thing was a weapon of sorts, his youngest sister would be in danger if he handed it over now. This in mind, Goodhart decided to give the object to his sister upon her return to camp. "I'm sorry. I don't know what you mean." "Oh, that's quite all right. Well, thank you for taking care of me, but I hate to say it, but I have to go now. I really have to find that object." "Again, I must apologize, but my orders are absolute. I am to keep you safe inside this tent until our unit's commander comes back. I must also ask you to consider this. If it wasn't for our commander, you would either be dead or freezing in a cell by now, instead of having the honor of using our commander's tent to rest. Please don't repay her favor by wandering off and getting her in trouble even more." "Why would me looking for my lost property cause your commander any trouble?" "You really are dense, are you? You are in a unicorn military outpost. Her ordering your safety could be considered treason." The outburst of the up-to-now very polite soldier made the doctor flinch. Before he could regain his composure, however, he felt himself being lifted off the ground by magic and being put back in bed. "Stay and rest, and don't get my sister in any deeper trouble as she already is in, unless you want to be my first kill." Being surprised by the harshness of the formerly so polite unicorn and the fact that he had been just put in bed like a little child made the doctor swallow all cheeky comments that had come to his mind. He just nodded and couldn't help but think that this wasn't the first time the stallion had done this. Judging from the smiling heart on his flank, the doctor deducted that he was usually good-natured. Him lashing out like this, and the mentioning of his sister, made him remember the story Princess Luna had told him and Octavia. Just before the stallion left the tent again, the doctor mustered all his courage and spoke up. "One last question, if I might." The stallion looked over his shoulder at the doctor and sighed. "Ask if you must, but make it a quick one." "Are you Goodhart by any chance?" Goodhart's eyes widened in surprise. How did this pony know his name? Even his squad mates rarely used his name, so he couldn't have heard it. Or at least it was very unlikely. His friends among the other soldiers, after they had discovered that he was behind the pranks pulled on them and the sometimes resulting chaos, had long since started calling him Discord, because he always had the next prank in mind already. Moon Lily looked Upon the wagon her sister had the soldiers prepared to transport her. She was not quite satisfied of how flashy it looked. The golden wagon, with red curtains to obstruct the view of the passenger, was usually used for visiting members of the High Command. What concerned her little was, practically shouted, "Kill me!" to every pony looking. There was also the matter of the escort her sister had prepared. 23 heavily armored ponies, plus 10 ponies specialized in shield spells. Moon Lily's hoof went up to her face as she shook her head in disbelief. Her sister had failed to protect her before, and now tried to correct that mistake by being overly protective.
"Can we move out soon, Moon Lily?"
A weak voice from behind the curtains asked her. Moon Lily looked up into the direction the pony addressing her was. "As you wish, Professor. Soldiers, move out!" Not even nodding in agreement, the two soldiers pulling the wagon started moving into the direction of Moon Lily's outpost. They were followed by the escort her sister had assigned. Moon Lily trotted next to the wagon the Professor was riding in. She had offered her to let her ride with her, but she had declined that offer. The Professor herself was no lightweight herself, and adding her weight to that would only slow them down even more. Even so, she knew she should keep a vigilant eye out for attackers that had stayed inside the shield when it had been renewed earlier. Her mind wandered off. She remembered the first time she had met the Professor. It had been a sunny day, almost 10 years back. She had been a mere filly back then, standing between her older siblings in front of their parents' graves. It had been one of the very short days that lasted only for a few minutes. When the sun had set unnaturally fast, and the moon had started its evenly fast ascent, a shadow had fallen upon all three of them. The light of the full moon illuminated a pony bigger than the biggest stallion they had ever seen. Her white coat and the moonlight shining on her made her look very pale and almost ghostly. What had filled the three with a mixture of anger and fear had been her wings. What confused them on the other hoof was the horn that went along with them. Goodhart had pushed both of them behind him, willing to protect his sisters from any harm. The four had stayed this way for a while, when the strange winged unicorn fell to her knees and had started to cry. It was this moment that even the overprotective Goodhart had realized that this pony was no threat to any pony. After some more time and introductions, this pony had saved them from the fate of growing up in an orphanage. Strange enough, no unicorn in Unitopolis had ever wondered about her adopted mother's wings. They had just treated her like another unicorn mare. At times the Professor would leave them alone for a few hours or even days, leaving their elder brother in charge. Shortly before Sunflower and her were forced to join the military academy, however, she was gone for almost a month. When she finally had come back, she, Moon Lily, had found her collapsed on their doorstep. From that point on, she had gotten steadily weaker and didn't leave them alone anymore. It was at that point that the two sisters had sworn by their parents' graves that they would return the favor and take care of her from now on, and keep her safe, no matter what the cost. To be continued.